Hello and welcome to i-nastava. This lesson is for English class, the first year of high school, and the topic is called Let's Put It in a Nutshell. My name is Stephanie Kate Lukač and I'll be your teacher for today. In this lesson, you're going to discuss different random acts of kindness. You'll also recognize multi-generational difficulties, and you're also going to write a personal email. For today's lesson, you're going to need your notebooks, something to write with, whether it be a pen or pencil, whatever, and some kind of device where you have internet access, maybe a laptop, mobile phone, whatever you have handy. I'd like to mention that you can also pause the video at any time you need to, whether you want to go over something again, stop and think about what you need to do, or after the assignments that you're given. To put it in a nutshell, you've gone over many interesting things that you go through in everyday life. One of the basic rules in life is to treat others the way you want to be treated. So be kind. Give some of your time to others who may just need a smile, a good word, or a helping hand. This rule also applies to multi-generational families or homes where things might not go as smoothly as some people might think. Sometimes showing a friend or family member that you're interested in what you have to say can make a difference in how their day goes. But if you want to show them that you disagree or think differently, it's not a good idea to start yelling or putting them down. You can tell them what you prefer or give another alternative in a kind way. This is especially true when different generations get together, because often grandparents don't understand their children or grandchildren because of the generation gap. This is also true the other way around, which you can see in everyday life with modern technology. And finally, with modern technology comes different forms of communication, such as the email. While it's not a problem for most teenagers, some still aren't sure about the format or how to write it. So, let's recap. You wrote a short story about a random act of kindness in one of the lessons from before. Your teacher can choose a few of you randomly, if you decide not to volunteer, to share your stories. Choose one of the stories you've seen or heard and take some notes. What do you think of this person's random act of kindness? How would you feel if this happened to you? If you were in a similar situation, did things happen differently? Would you prefer a different outcome? For example, I once heard about a random act of kindness from my colleague. He was driving home from the store when an elderly woman stopped him on the side of the road. Puzzled, he pulled over to see what was wrong. She was almost in tears, asking him to drop her off at the station because she was almost late to catch her train home, and she couldn't walk any longer. At first he was a little skeptical, but figured she needed his help, so he agreed. The poor woman was crying happy tears in the car and couldn't stop thanking him. Nobody had stopped to help her before he came along. She even wanted to pay him for driving her the few minutes to the station. Of course he declined and said no. He had gotten her to the train station on time and felt good about helping her. That was all the payment he needed. I really like my colleague's story and his RAK because taking only a few minutes of your time can make a huge difference in a person's life. Sometimes being selfless or putting someone else before yourself can make you feel really satisfied and content. I know I would feel extremely happy if something similar happened to me. This elderly woman was having trouble walking because of her old age and would have missed her train home, and all it took for my colleague was a few extra turns on the road to drop her off. I also know another person, a friend, who refused to help another person by dropping him off on her way home. I would rather help a person out by doing something small, like giving them a ride home, than refuse to assist them. I've never been in a similar situation like these two I just told you about, but I know I would prefer the first story. One day I might need a lift somewhere. So, listen to your classmates about their stories and don't forget to take notes before you give your opinion and thoughts on the subject. You can talk to your classmates about this or record yourself talking using vocalroo.com, for example. Of course, you can choose any website or app that you feel comfortable with. The most important thing is to try, even if you feel you're having trouble with this. Now would be a good time to pause the video so you can do this assignment. If you recall some of the information you read and wrote about in living under the same roof or multi-generational homes, there were many reasons for families to live together under one roof, no matter which generation they came from. For example, quality time. You create a stronger bond with each other because of all the memories and experiences you share. In addition, you can become or have a role model within the house, someone you look up to or who looks up to you. Another advantage to multi-generational homes is the sense of purpose it brings, especially to older generations who might feel they're not worth as much anymore because of their age. And finally, added financial support or dividing the responsibilities around the household seem to add to the positive aspects of living with multiple generations. But what about some possible negatives or problems that might come up in this living situation? Things seem to be more optimistic in these households, but they can't always be perfect. My colleague had previously given some tips on how to make multi-generational living succeed, which you will see in the next exercise. You're given 5 pieces of advice, and you will hear 5 people talking about a problem they have with their families. Match each speaker, A, B, C, D, and E, with the advice given in 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. You can listen as many times as you need to. Speaker A.
I get so angry sometimes because I have to do all the work. Mia, do the dishes. Mia, vacuum the floors. Mia, do this. Mia, do that. My siblings don't do anything except for maybe take out the garbage. It's not fair. Not to mention my parents. I mean, I know they work a lot, but I have to go to school and study or do my homework when I get home. I can't do this anymore. Why do I always have to be the reliable one in the family? The only one everyone can count on? Sometimes I feel like a volunteer because I'm doing all the work and not getting paid for it. The rest of my family should be helping out more. They can't be so self centric and only think of themselves.
Speaker B.
I'm going to have a talk with my mom later on today. She really crossed the line this time. I was having a discussion with Adam, and it got a little tense, since we were talking about a problem we've been having with our daughter Lily. As she's getting older, she's asking for more things, but the main thing is she wants to go out until midnight. I mean, she's only 13. Well, my mom overheard us, and she just charged in, telling us what she thinks we need to do, which usually comes down to letting Lily have her way. We don't want her to be spoiled. And I've reached adulthood. I'm not a child anymore. My mom needs to step back and not get in the middle of things. Sure, we live together and coexist under the same roof, but Adam and I are Lily's parents, and we decide on her upbringing, not my mom.
Speaker C.
I had the worst thing happen to me yesterday. I was in my bedroom hanging out with my friends. It wasn't a big deal. We were just talking and watching TV, also hanging out. All of a sudden, my grandpa comes in and sits down, trying to be part or belong in our group, trying to act all cool and funny, which he wasn't, of course. He kept telling embarrassing stories about when I was younger. The worst part about it was the guy I really liked was here. He came with my best friend's boyfriend. I was so embarrassed. I wanted to die. He can't just come in whenever he feels like it. I love him to pieces, but sometimes I need my privacy.
Speaker D. I don't know what happened. I just lost my temper for the dumbest thing. My dad was having a conversation with Grandpa about when Dad was a baby. They were laughing and joking around. It was actually fun to hear about their stories. I went to the fridge to get myself something to drink when I heard Grandpa shout out, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." Well, he had tried to show what a digital native he was, like he knew what he was doing on my laptop because he had grown up with computers. As if. He ended up erasing a file with my school project. I'd been working on it for over a week. I had this kind of anxiety attack because I started to worry about how I could fix this. I am tech savvy and know a lot about computers, but I don't know everything. Getting a deleted file back is something I've never done. He kept apologizing and saying he was sorry, but I yelled at him about how I would rather he didn't touch my things. Why didn't he watch what he was doing? That kind of thing. I feel really bad about yelling at him like that now that I've calmed down. I really need to learn to control my temper and not say things that hurt other people. I must apologize to him. I know he also feels bad for ruining all my work. Besides, he didn't do it intentionally. I think I need to make some type of kind gesture towards him, like make him some tea and give him a hug, to show him that I'm sorry about the way I reacted. Speaker E.
I'm getting really tired of this, paying for everything around here. Electricity, water, and gas bills. Groceries, cleaning supplies, the list goes on. We're not the only one in this house. My in-laws need to pitch in and help out with the expenses. I know they don't have a huge amount of money with their pensions, but neither do we. If my wife delays talking to them about helping out with our finances, I know I won't. She can't keep telling me, I'll talk to them later, or it's not a good time. I'll tell them next week. Most importantly, I'm not going to be everyone's personal bank machine anymore.
If you need to listen again, go back and listen again. I hope that wasn't too difficult for you. You can check your answers here on the screen. So we've got Speaker A with sentence number 4. Rotate chores among all members. Speaker B with number 3. Set limits or family boundaries. Speaker C with number 1. Define shared spaces or private areas. Speaker D with number 5. Learn to deal with conflict or arguments. And the last speaker E with number 2. Divide or share expenses. If you've made some mistakes, don't get upset or feel you've done something wrong. Things may seem hard at the beginning, but if you're a little stubborn and keep trying hard, things get easier. If you need to, listen again to the speakers while rereading the sentences so you can see where you've confused some of the answers. Now that you've heard the speakers, I'd like you to take a few minutes to think of some of your own advice or thoughts to give for these situations. Be sure to use modals like must, might, can't, or can. If necessary, listen to the speakers again to get some inspiration. For example, the first speaker was a girl talking about having to do all the chores around the house. You might say something like, her family must help her out more, or they can't be that lazy. Give it a shot. Don't be afraid to be creative. Write down your answers in your notebook, then share your thoughts amongst yourselves or with your teacher. Now might be a good time to pause so you can do the assignment. You also had an interesting lesson about generations X, Y, and Z. They were interesting, weren't they? Learning new things about different generations is always entertaining, and you might learn a little about yourselves or your parents and grandparents. I personally was surprised at how much of the information was true for my generation, Generation X. I was born in between 1960 and 1980, and no, I won't release that information exactly when it happened, but I did grow up mostly with my TV. And look, others from Generation X and I survived our teenage years without a cell phone or laptop while growing up. It is possible, boys and girls. MTV and grunge music were my favorites at the time. And yes, they do call us the latchkey generation because when we got home from school, we mostly came home to an empty house because both of my parents were working. As for the people from Generation Y, I do know many people from this time period, and I'm really not sure if they're self-centric or impatient. I mean, some are, some aren't. When it comes to Generation Z, and that's you, I would have to agree with most of the points there. You're also tech savvy and know pretty much everything about the internet and all types of technology. It blows me away sometimes. I'm not even close to where each of you are, especially when you love to multitask. You're on your mobile, talking to a friend while texting another friend while watching Netflix or whatever it else is you're doing on your laptop. It really is amazing to see. On the screen, you'll see a link to go over generations X, Y, and Z. That's the first link. You'll find a small article and an interesting short video along with it. Read through the text and watch the video so you can go over a short quiz to answer the questions. That's the second link where it says reading comp. You can also take a picture of your results and send them to your teacher. Now I'd like you to use the QR code or link to fill in the crossword puzzle which contains vocabulary from the lesson. You have hints to help you. If you need to go back to your notes and work from that lesson to revise, it's not a problem. At the end, click on the button to check over your answers so you can try again as many times as you need. If the answers are incorrect, the letters or words will show up as red. If they're correct, they'll show up as green. Good luck! So you might want to pause this right about now to do the crossword. I hope you had fun doing the crossword. Now you're going to give it a try. On the screen, you can see a list of words from the previous lessons. So you've got selfless, unplanned, gesture, kindness, satisfaction, anxiety, belonging, optimism, health, volunteer. You must make your own crossword puzzle using these words. It's just a reminder, you need to come up with your own definitions of the words to use as hints, like you had seen in my crossword. There are many websites or apps you can use, for example, crosswordlabs.com or Discovery Education's Crossword Puzzle Maker. Here on the screen, I put up the Crossword Labs website so you can see what it looks like. You don't need to register for those websites, you just follow the instructions as they appear to you on the screen. When you've finished, send your crossword to your teacher and your fellow students. See how creative and accurate you can be and how others have been as well. Previously, you had written an email to Ainsley telling him about yourself, your interests, your free time activities, and about school. I hope you paid attention to the different parts within the email, like your greeting or introduction, where you say hello or hi, the main body or paragraphs where you're answering as well as asking questions, and the ending. It's impolite not to sign off at least with your name. You're not going to sign off with love, Steph, if you don't really know the person, but you need something for the end. For this part of the lesson, I would like you to take a look at the email message you received from Ainsley. That's the next screen. Imagine that you've already come back from the exchange trip and have received this email from him. Write your email back to him in about 100 to 120 words. Be sure to answer all of his questions, use the email structure, and last but not least, always check over to make sure you haven't made any spelling mistakes. You can send your reply to your teacher so he or she can check over your work. This screen should be paused while you read through Ainsley's email to you. Once again, in around 100 words, answer his questions, but don't forget to ask him some things as well. Send your emails to your teacher and good luck. And at the end, here's a checklist to go through regarding the main elements of this unit. Take a look at each claim and decide how you've done for each part. If you didn't have any or just some minor problems, you'll check off excellent. If you have some problems, you'll check off the good box. Needs improvement is checked off if you need more help with that area, and I don't understand should be checked off if things were really unclear and you couldn't follow. I hope you enjoyed the lesson. Have a good day.